Hey, it's me. I went and scrubbed out the YCS 200th. I managed to make it all the way to round 9, which is pretty good for me. So I thought I would do a little deck profile thing explaining my thoughts on the deck and stuff. It's not really my deck, it's completely like card for card basically. Triff Gaming's deck, so go subscribe to him, shoutouts to him. Really kind of him to send me the list and stuff before the event. His own like refined like 70 card, wait no, played 60 cards, so it's like, I don't know, card for card, side deck, main extra thing. And yeah, I guess I'll just give some of my thoughts on this deck and see where I feel it went wrong, where I went wrong, and yeah, it'll be something interesting for me to look back on in the future through this video. So first of all, the biggest problem that I had with this deck, you feel free to skip ahead to the profile if you want. I mean, I don't know why you'd do that. Like, the whole purpose of this is for me to talk about the deck itself and what I think about it. But anyway, so in principle, like my first, like, after coming away from the event, the first thing that I realized, like once I had dropped, was that if I was to ask any of you guys what the advantage is and what the sort of medical idea behind playing Pendulum, a lot of you might come to the conclusion is that for the most part, Pendulum is very resilient to hand traps. Ghost Reaper is, you know, whatever, because like Electromite isn't super reliant upon anymore because of, you know, the fact that it got limited. Ghost Ogre is really bad on your Electromite, it really hurts, but if you just don't use the first effect, if you do have a read on the Ghost Ogre, you still make really good boards. And Ash Blossom should be negligible, right? Droll, Shared Right, all of these cards should be awful against this deck, right? All of that's the advantage to playing Pendulum, in my opinion, right? So the issue that I had with this deck coming out, immediately I realized was like, I don't see the benefit of playing the 60 cards, because in order to bump this deck up to 60 cards, you are integrating all of these draw cards and all of these search cards that lose to the above cards, which in theory don't beat Pendulum, but they're dead against Pendulum, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the biggest issue that I had with this, was that I'm increasing my deck size to 60 for no significant real gain in power. I don't see why this is 60. I don't understand why it's even 50. I tried to mess around with the list like for 10 minutes and I was just cutting all the cards like that I just didn't like, and I came down to about 45 cards, and even then it probably could have cut down less. So in terms of the power ceiling of the deck, I don't really see like what you get extra from playing the 60 cards. Like maybe a Persona Dragon. That I feel like that's like all I get to see. Maybe an Amorphage Sloth. So that's the biggest issue. Like I was drawing hands that lost to draw. Like to me that is bizarre in Pendulum, and those were all of my losses. All of my losses were to hand traps, not really, you know, to like, thankfully I didn't see any strikes, thank God. Like thankfully I didn't play any against like strike decks or something. So yeah, that's the number one biggest problem with this deck, this specific list rather than the archetype, was that I don't understand why we're playing Terraforming, why we're playing Allure, why we're playing Call, all of these cards that just lose to Desires, Droll, even Shared Right, for God's sake. Like Shared Right, I got Shared Righted, and that for some reason it was randomly good. Like I opened the Exodia combo, which is Call, Ditch, Darkworm, like once, and it got Shared Righted, and it was game 3 against Skystriker, and I just straight up asked the guy like, why are you playing that in game 3 against Pendulum? He was like, I didn't have anything else for Pendulum. And I was like, well, fair enough. I just punished myself for no reason because I decided to play like all these search cards in a Pendulum deck that don't need search. Like it was really bizarre, and a little bit like near the end it did get frustrating, because I was like at start I entered the tournament because it's just memes. It was funny, you know. But then I was doing well, you know. I got to like 5-1, and I was like, hey, I'm doing all right. I'll keep going. And then I just started losing to hand traps because I started playing against more and more pure and better pure players, and they kept hand trapping me, and it was just randomly really good, and a deck that shouldn't lose to hand trap. You know, I was, you know, the first 3 rounds was testing. I was really greedy. I just kept like, you know, summon Electromite, use the effect, get ogred. Oh shit, I suck at this game. So that was testing, but I managed to win those games anyway. So I kept going, and I started learning how to play around hand traps as the day progressed. And it was still coming to the point where like I remember specifically my last game before I lost, my hand was like double Abductor, double Sky Iris, and like I can't remember, it was another spell card, I can't remember which one, and I got drolled, and like I I had like no play basically. Like I don't see how that like does anything significant of value going first if you get drilled with that hand. It was really odd. Back in the day, you know, Dr. Terraforming was Exodia, but I don't feel like this is the meta for playing those kind of cards. Anyway, that's my ramble about the deck. Theoretically, that's like my whole thoughts was like TLDR. 60 cards does not bring any kind of power increase to this deck, in my opinion. And the addition of all of these draw and search cards is just it's just one step forward, two steps back. Like you pick Pendulum to avoid all of these hand traps that pure Sky Striker is playing because it's the most represented deck, and then you take two steps back by putting in all these cards that lose to it. Okay, so a Pendulum, yeah, sure, good meta call, and then you take two steps back. Okay, let's lose to like hand traps anyway. So that was my biggest criticism of this. So I'll go into the profile now, and I guess I'll explain a little. None of this is mine. The main deck is all of Triff's. So yeah, I'll just give my thoughts on how I would personally change it going forward and stuff. Sorry, I don't have a mat because I'm poor and stupid. So yeah, I played like the Magician Engine, I guess, and yeah, they were fine. I guess I wouldn't really change anything about that. I felt like it was a bit of a low count, honestly, like one purple and black, but actually it was all fine, like these two, because Janky, like you really need it to summon off of the harmonizing. So if you desires, that's really bad. 2 off is fine as well because of desires, because sometimes you just straight up need the second one regardless of desires. So that was fine. I don't want to give a conclusion on these two. I feel like maybe you should be playing more, maybe like a second Fang, because I feel like this deck kind of struggled on high scales occasionally. If I was trying to play around like, you know, Ash, like through the Iris and stuff, like it would have been nice to be able to like go straight into this off of call or something like that, or I don't know, like just some more high scales I felt were like, maybe it's just like really unlucky variants, but that's what I noticed. And I feel like Black Fang is like maybe like the better of the purple and black, but I guess it depends on the meta and stuff. And I played the Chrono things. Yeah, of course, like they were good. I remember Triff in one of his videos did a play where he activated this effect to scale this, and I still don't understand why that was relevant. Because like to play around Ogre, all I was doing was just like, you know, hoping they would Ogre this, and like I would still be able to like Cerberus or something. But like there come to a point like after round 3, like with Electromite, I just wasn't using the first effect ever, because it was just way too much of a loss to Ogre. So I don't know why you would ever scale it. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. Like maybe I'm stupid, I guess. Anyway, so the other ones, Dark Worm. Again, another issue with like playing the 60 card thing is like you want to be seeing this guy as like your starter like more often, like either this or Shrine or this plus Call, which like never happens in 60 cards. And because like Call pitch this guy, like you get Ash, like that's still fine. Like I think you still go +1 in advantage, right? Because you lose 2 cards, they lose 1, and then you gain this back, so now you're 0, and then you gain this card, so you're +1. So I feel like that's like this is why you want to play like 40 cards as well, so you can give your chance of opening that combo specifically as often as possible, which is like really strong. Like Dark Worm was great, and even the second 0 I felt like it did come up a couple times, and I do like it. Abductor is like a really nice card, like she's great and stuff, like Terra Abductor was like the nuts back in 2016, but like I said, I don't see the point in giving your deck this like handicap of losing to hand traps unnecessarily. Like why should I be, like there's no conceivable reason for Shared Ride or Droll to be good against this deck, so why would you play these cards? I just don't understand, especially Sky Striker, which is, you know, the best deck or whatever, most played deck. It plays like 6 to like 12 hand traps I've seen some list running, and this just, it baffles me why like these things need to be played. Cerberus again, like amazing. Every time I drew this, it was like a god hand. It was perfectly like amazing. But again, like it's 60 cards. Like, you know, like what? There's only like really 2 broken first turn interactions this deck can really draw, and I feel like it's like, you know, Call plus Dark Worm, you know, Chrono, and this guy. Like I can't really think of like any other like super outlandishly amazing first turn cards. And I feel like you should be maximizing your chance of drawing that with playing 40. So I would, you know, I would like to have seen him more. It was great. Every time I drew it, it was like a really great hand. But I just wasn't seeing it enough because I was playing 60 cards and I was drawing all these crappy spells that lose to Droll instead. So I got these Odd Eyes cards. Again, it's an okay engine. It's fine. It's kind of cool, but it doesn't benefit the deck to, like, you know, unnecessarily lose to Ash by playing this engine. And well, not these cards specifically lose to it, but the Irises and Terras do. So these would obviously, these would, like, bringing this down to 40, these would 100% be the first engine I cut. Persona was really great and stuff, it was nice, but I just don't feel like that really warrants it. Like, I feel like increasing to 60, this was the only beneficial thing I saw. It was like, oh, my extra one other option I have now that I play 60 is I can summon Persona. And in testing, I kept fucking cheating because I'm stupid. Testing, by the way, not the event testing, just in case you're watching Konami. I was like popping the other scale and summoning Persona from deck with Arc, regardless of what the other scale was. But he says an Odd Eyes card has to be destroyed on your scale. So like you have to open like 2 Odd Eyes cards specifically. So you have to open like 2 Odd Eyes cards specifically to trigger that effect. But if you open like Iris this guy, that doesn't really count as triggering his effect because you need to use the Iris to then search this. So like there's like statistical like anomalies happening when you're like trying to trigger this effect, and I guess this isn't really something you should be relying on. It's probably just a bonus effect, but it's just something to mention, right? Because in the end, it's basically just a vanilla. Level 7, which is good. Scale 8, it's cool, but I just don't see like this being necessary to bring it down to 40. Hamster, this card was okay. Yeah, he's a good card. But just bringing it down to 60, bringing it down to 40, this would probably be cut. There was like, in the times where you feel like where you have a read on your opponent not having the ogre, like Electromite usually sends this if you haven't used your normal summon, and then you go from there. But then like we're also playing Amorphage Sloth, and that's where you use your normal summon on. So like I feel like playing both of these in your deck is like, yeah, 60 cards, the chance of drawing both is like unlikely, but this is for all intents and purposes a normal summon. This card is a normal summon. You can use the scale effect, I suppose, which is cool, but I actually found that the scale effect of Hamster didn't come up very often, just because, you know, with 60 cards, like you have all these different like engines, and the likelihood of you drawing all of them, drawing multiples of them was like not very high. So I never had a reason to add back 2 with the same name because I just didn't have it up. So normally what the idea is, like, you send this with the Electromite, do your plays, summon from the extra. Once you've summoned all your extra deck guys, then you tribute summon this guy over, like, I don't know, like a spare harmonizing that's just chilling there, or even Electromite. So you end with like Vortex, Jackal, maybe like a rank 4 in this guy, tribute summoned. So that's like really strong. But again, that's something that loses to Ghost Ogre if you do try to use Electromite and you read your opponent wrong and they do have the Ogre. And it's not super difficult for Sky Striker to out Amorphage Sloth. Again, this guy, normal summon, I feel like kind of loses to like disruptions unnecessarily as well, with Ash Blossom and stuff. So yeah, like I would just cut all these cards that just lose to Ash Blossom. And Sloth was like, like every time I summoned against Sky Striker, I won. And I don't think that's because Sky Striker have a particularly hard time about dealing with this. Like Engage Search Afterburner, yeah, I have to activate Widow Anchor. It's not very hard. But when you combine that with Sloth plus 2 negates, that's when it like gets really hard for them to out it. So by the end of the turn, yes, they may have outed your Sloth, but not, like they still haven't dealt with Jackal and Vortex. You know, plus or minus a rank 4, like make this with like a rank with Cairn Gorgon, which I'm playing, that's just nuts, right? So it's like they activate Afterburner, target him, Cairn Gorgon, chain, target your own like Electromite, and then they chain Widow Anchor because they don't realize Cairn Gorgon is twice per turn, and you chain Cairn Gorgon, Widow Anchor, target your own Electromite, and then they're just like, it's really sad. So yeah, making this guy with backup is really good, but because of the fact that I mentioned that Ghost Ogre beats the Electromite if you use the first effect, I just wouldn't play it. Because you don't like, there's no reason to be that greedy, basically. It's a very greedy, like, win more card. So unless you straight up open it, I wouldn't be sending this, or using Electromite's first effect at all. Curtain Raiser, I hate this card. Do you know why? Do you know why? Do you guys know what this, all of you, but don't read it, don't read it. What is Curtain Raiser's monster effect? Tell me right now, guys, tell me right now. What is Curtain Raiser's first effect? Don't Google it, write it in the comment section right now. What is Curtain Raiser's monster effect? Okay, are you typing? Are you writing? Okay, good. All right. Curtain Raiser's first effect is that it gains 1100. So I randomly lost the game to Nat Beast because I'm stupid, but I had this in my hand. So I didn't realize this guy, you could just normal summon and just crash with Nat Beast. So yeah, I'm dumb. That's okay. Like I said, I'm not proficient with this deck, nor did I ever claim to be. This is just my thoughts on it post-game, yes. So, okay, yeah, that was just a funny story to let you know how stupid I am. Okay, Farfa reads in the chat. Desires, yeah, this card is like bad against Ash or whatever, because you wouldn't really have any ways to bait Ash in this deck if you cut it down to 40 like I suggested. But that's fine. I don't think that's particularly bad or anything. It means you can like play Call way more safely and stuff if you have it as well. But yeah, I would still play this. The Shrines and the Foolish, I would still play this. Like, these are all great. Allure, I got drolled on an Allure in one round, okay? Let me tell you, I got drolled on an Allure in one round. And, you know, after my Allure banish, I had 2 scales, which were like very average. I can't remember what they were. I think it was like one Magician, like I want to say like a Jackal or something, I don't know. And then like search cards, like Terra, like Call, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it really, like I said, I entered the tournament for memes, but it was really frustrating to lose to Droll in Pendulum. I just wasn't expecting like a Droll in like fucking like game 2 or something, right? So it was just really bizarre. Yeah, okay, anyway, yeah, so cut that card, that's just garbage. Duelist Alliance, it's a good card as well, but I think I'd maybe cut it just to, like, you know, play on the strengths of the deck, which is, you know, not losing to hand traps. I keep saying that over and over again, but that's how much, like, it frustrated me, was like losing to hand traps in a deck that just shouldn't lose to hand traps. But yeah, it's alright, I guess. The advantage obviously was that it searches Arc Pendulum if you need a high skill, instead of, like, if you want to be safe and like not lose to like Ash on the like, you can activate this and search Arc Pendulum if you feel like they have Ash, because like if they like, you know, Ash Pendulum Call, that's like generally going to be really bad unless you have Dartworm. So you can just search a high scale instead if you want to play it safe. So I would still play this card, like that. This one's like okay. Call, it's a very love-hate relationship with this. Like, despite the fact that it does lose to hand traps, it's still extremely powerful and extremely good. Maybe sometimes there are hands that can play out of this. I can't give you a conclusion of what I think about Pendulum Call. Like, the card is amazing in a vacuum, but in this format with just so many hand traps, like okay, fine, if they like Ash one card, like you can still kind of do things, but then if they like Ogre something else as well, even if you play around it, like you're still maybe going to get 2 negates, maybe. And then like this package, which completely cut this. This is absolutely dog shit. This is so worthless. The only time this was relevant was my opponents wouldn't read it, activate Twin Twister, target my scales, and then I would say, no, sorry, you can't target them, and they would try to take it back, and because I'm a nice boy, I would say, no, sorry, you activated it, so you have to target relevant targets, and that would mean that they would have to pop their own, pop Sky Iris. So yeah, read cards, he says as he ignores Curtain Raiser and loses to Nat Beast. Anyway, extra deck, the 1 link 4, I guess Firewall isn't really necessary. Yeah, so like normally what you do is you go into Metatron to trigger the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, but I found that you would randomly like have a Harmonizing Magician on the field. So you would have like Vortex, Jackal, and then like your Metatron with maybe like a normal summon Sloth or something like that. And rather than, you know, just having a chilling Harmonizing doing nothing, which, you know, I guess if you did have Sloth in that situation, you could tribute the Harmonizing, rather than going to Metatron and then having 2 negates plus like, you know, a random card, you could just go into Borreload instead. So Borreload turn 1 is like a meme, obviously, but when you back it up with like Vortex and Jackal, it becomes a little bit very difficult for Sky Striker to deal with, because you just have so many like problem cards on the field. So it does get a little tough for them to play. So I was every time I made it, it was like I generally just won the game, because like it's hard for some decks to deal with, like this alone is like a trouble for some decks. Never mind when you have 2 negates protecting it. Phoenix and Mermaid, I guess this is because if you need a link 2 and then go into Down Arrow, like that did actually come up once. I think I used this card effect once when I summoned it. But generally what I was doing was like I would like just, I can't, again, I'm not very good at this deck, but I would like randomly need the Down Arrow. So I would just like go into this and then go into that. It came up. I don't know why it came up. I couldn't tell you why it came up. This is Triff's extra deck. He'll explain it to you. Okay. Land Phalanx. Some people were saying play Wee Witch instead, but sometimes you can't rely on having 2 darks to make the zones trigger absolute, because sometimes you'd have a hamster or a wisdom eye. So the attribute restriction was quite relevant, so it was safer to just stick to Landphalinkus. Metatron, of course, this guy's amazing. Electromite, just got 1. And yeah, for the rank 4 choices, I guess it was really just kind of, I'm not sure, like I don't know like how many other options there are, like main decking Dweller is like good and stuff, but like why would you main deck Dweller in a format like going blind first, right? Because like it's the idea with Dweller is like you make Dweller first against Goki, but if you're going first, like you don't know where your opponent's playing, so like why would you Dweller them? So the safest choice to go first I found was Cairn Gorgon. Shoutouts to Jawad from CCG for telling me this. Like, this is really like a really good rank 4 going first, because Sky Striker, all of their cards target, so you just redirect all of them with Cairn Gorgon, and it's not once per turn. This card was amazing. So yeah, this was the safest blind first turn rank 4. Game 2 and 3, if you know what they're playing, you can go into Nightmare or Tornado, and going second against just stuff, you had Exciton as an option. And Exciton plus Pendulum Call is really funny. So yeah, those are the rank 4 choices. I thought they were correct. I have more in the side deck, but yeah, Absolute, and the Vortex, of course, Ignister, and Omega. Like Triff's list played Omega. I don't really, and it never came up for me. I don't see the uses for it, so I would have preferred to have had more going second. Like what I've noticed is that this is a very go first heavy extra deck. So there were sometimes situations where it was hard for me to kill my opponent because I just didn't have cards that were like super like good for OTKing. Like Ignister obviously is very good because it can shuffle away basically every card in the game. But something like the Raigeki dude would have been nice for the level 8. Like the rank 4 like Perform Mage maybe would have been useful. Stuff like that, yeah. So I would probably cut Omega for something that helps you going, that lets you put game on board like immediately. So that's the extra deck. And the side deck, this was all fine. Like generally this was all fine. I never had an issue with this. Cowboy, I cowboyed like 2 or 3 times. I didn't side for like 10 minutes. I didn't chill and make a firewall. I was making that very clear. I played very much to the rules and played very ethically. And if it so happened that I could cowboy, I cowboyed, okay? And it did win me like 3 games just in time. So yeah, I sided this game in. Like even game 2 sometimes I would side it in. If I anticipated a long game, I would still side it in. Because my combos take like 10 minutes, right? Because I'm stupid, right? So I'm a little bit slower than most people. But just Konami, again, I'm not slow playing. I'm just like, that's my pace, okay? Like yeah, okay, just so we're clear on that. Anyway. Yeah, so it's like sometimes you get into grind games against like just Sky Striker sometimes can be very grindy. So I decided into game 2 as well, because there will be like sometimes game states where you just make Cowboy, not even into the time rules, like just game 2, you didn't even expect it to happen. I just sided it in anyway, and I just won like a game through Cowboy. Dweller for going first against Goki, which I never anticipated, and which I never played rather, but I did prepare for them in case. And then I guess these cards are for the yeah, those decks, you know, yeah, those decks, okay. Blossom and Ogre. Oh, there's a Naruto here, huh, okay, sorry, this should be an extra deck. Yeah, I play Naruto. Yeah, play Naruto. Naruto's a good boy. Play Naruto. Okay, Naruto. Yeah, that's not in the side deck, because that, I forgot. Did I have 14 cards in here? 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. Okay, yeah, that was 14. Okay, with Naruto, it's 15. Yeah, so 9 hand traps. I should have been playing Impermanence, I think, over some extra deck cards, but I felt like, well, number 1, I can't afford Impermanence, but number 2 also, I didn't expect that many, like, but I wanted to be prepared against Go. I wanted something. But then again, I'm playing 60 cards, so the chances of me, like, having any kind of stop power against Goki is just non-existent. Like, maybe I'll draw 1 in 60 cards, and hopefully that'll end the game. Okay, anyway. Yeah, I think this was a good number of hand traps, like 6 or 7 is fine. Did I say 9? I meant 7, okay. Well, that was my deck, and I hope you enjoyed the list and learned a thing or two from it, and maybe you can make this better. Just very clearly, you know, I'm not like saying Triff is bad at deck building or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, this is just what I encountered through my personal experience, and I'm sure he has reasonings and stuff for some of the problems I highlighted. So yeah, again, massive thank you to him for giving me his list. Thanks to him for giving me some of the help and stuff. And yeah, it was a fun event and shit, and it was nice meeting everyone. And that's basically my report. I guess this video's gone on long enough. I was going to tell you a little bit about my matchups. The only relevant one, I suppose, that's funny to mention is that one of my losses was Crusadia. Yeah, Crusadia. Okay, yeah, I lost to Crusadia. I lost to Crusadia because like he OTK'd me game 2. I didn't know what I was playing in game 2. I made a big board game 1. He just scooped. He didn't like show what he was playing. Game 2, he made me go first again, which I thought was really weird because I decided for going second because I just expected, like, you know, if you're just gonna straight up scoop to my board, then you should probably, you know, not go second. But he went second anyway, and then he managed to OTK me, and I had a Tornado Dragon, and I don't know why, I just had the sense and feeling that he was playing like a back row deck of sorts. So I made Tornado Dragon, which is actually good against Crusadia because you hit the field spell, and I think the field spell is what enables the OTK. I think, I don't know, the card was German, I looked up the translation quickly, I thought, okay, that's a good card to hit. Okay, so I Tornado the field spell, and I think he had like a protection for it. I don't know how it works. So I lost that game. Right, game 3, he made, I was like, oh, game 3. I had this guy in my locals, Ryan from Mad Dog Gaming. He plays this deck, and he does nothing when he goes first. Big if true. So I was like, okay, I'll let this deck go first, and I'll laugh at him because he'll make like 1 negate or something, right? I think that's what the deck does. Like maybe 1 negate. He makes Nat Beast. Okay, well, I lose that game. The funny thing is, like I said with Curtain Raiser, I didn't realize Curtain Raiser was an out. I thought like my 1-of Purple Poison was the only out in the deck. So, yeah, Curtain Raiser, out Snap Beast. I actually could have won that game. Alright, anyway, yeah, that's the only relevant matchup that I thought was funny. Everything else, I basically summarized all the problems I had. Like, it was just, hand traps were randomly good against me, and Sky Striker was quite easy to deal with if they didn't have hand traps versus hands that lost to hand traps. So when I opened like just scales, basically, if I had just scales, then the matchup was good. I could just like OTK, or not OTK rather, just make a big board and then OTK the next turn. And Sky Striker, like I said, they have problems dealing with all of these like different monsters, and Cairn Gorgon is amazing against that deck. Like Cairn Gorgon is amazing. If I was to have an MVP for the extra deck, I guess obviously other than the obvious, like, you know, Odd Eyes Absolute into Vortex, which I did like every single game, Cairn Gorgon is really good, like amazing. Like just redirecting Cairn Gorgon, like every opportunity for anything they did was phenomenal. So I'd highly recommend that. Even against BA, like all of their things target. You know, I played randomly against BA and he like Farfa'd something, and I was like, okay, Cairn Gorgon, target my Electromite. All right, what was the next card he did? Alich, target Vortex. I was like, okay, Cairn Gorgon, chain, target himself. Does that work? I'm sure that works. Yeah, that works. Okay. Yeah, anyway, that's my report. I don't want to keep dragging on. It's like 25 minutes. Thanks everyone for watching. If you watched this far, give me hashtag Cairn Gorgon in the chat. Hashtag Cairn Gorgon in the chat. I keep saying chat, sorry, I'm too used to streaming now. Thank you to everyone who gave me support online, despite not making even day 2, whatever. I love you all, thank you. I had a great time. It's been great. It was amazing meeting all my friends. Shout outs to all of you who make these trips worth it. And you guys for supporting me and bringing me here. Thank you.